Next. Next. You. What's your name? Name? I got another one here who doesn't speak any English. I don't know how they expect to survive over there. All right, let's try this again. What is your name? I won't give him a name. I already named 3 people today, and I got to have a name for the ship's manifest. Oh, what's the word for name in Irish? I can't remember. Never mind. I've had James in a while. How does that sound? James Butler. You like that? My name is Fergus. Well, you know, it speaks English. Yeah, I can read and write too. Nobody cares about that. Fergus Walk. Oh, my dad's name is Darby. His dad's name was Darby. His dad. Right then. Fergus Darby. No, Maloney. My name is Fergus Maloney. Why'd you just say your name was Darby? Oh, never mind. How old are you? I am 1 year. And where are you from? County Clare. And how many people are traveling with you? Just yourself? September 1847. Fergus Maloney travels from Cove in County Cork, Ireland to South Street Seaport, New York City, USA. I didn't want to be hired. I didn't have no choice. In 1845, the potato, the only food of the Irish poor, rotted in the ground. This potato blight, as it was called, returned every year from 1845 to 1852, making more and more working people more and more desperate. This was the Great Potato Famine, or the Great Hunger of Ireland. The landlord evicted us because we couldn't pay our rent. And our potato crop rotted 2 years in a row. Oh, my sister was safe. She were a dairymaid on another estate. Well, the rest of us, ma'am, da, me, 4 younger brothers and 2 sisters, the bailiff and his lads, along with soldiers, came and put us out. All of us, everyone on the estate and in the village, dozens and dozens of families, no warning. They just came, put us out, and looked at our homes. Well, they went inside and set fires, burning everything they could. We had nowhere to go. Oh, sure, we had family, but they were all put out too. You see, we all lived on the same property, all neighbors. And them that lived nearby that weren't put out wouldn't help us for fear that they would get put out themselves. It was a cold night, raining. The wee ones was whining. Oh, we took shelter in a ditch aside the road. Da were crying himself. So me and the lads broke some branches to make a kind of roof for us. We huddled together to stay warm. We was all hungry, but there were no food. Nan thought if we went to the loch, we could fish. So we had a plan for the next day. The potato was first introduced to Ireland in the 1570s and quickly replaced grain crops as food. By the 1840s, the potato was not just the main food, the staple food, but basically the only food of about 3 million Irish, more than 1/3 of the entire population. Well, the potato was so nutritious, it was all a person needed to eat. In fact, at the time, Ireland had a relatively low infant mortality rate, which many believed was connected. And it was an abundant crop. An acre of potatoes could basically feed a family of 6 for an entire year. The first full potato blight was, well, depending on your perspective, either a surprise or inevitable. Oh, the potato had failed many times prior to that, as far back as 1739 and 1740. In 1820 and 21, the potato failed completely in the provinces of Munster and Connaught. In 1829 and 30, there were failures in counties Mayo, Donegal, and Galway. In 1832, 33, 34, and 36, many districts suffered from dry rot in the curl. In fact, dry rot, a disease called curl, and frost were the principal enemies of the potato all this time. In 1835, the potato failed in Ulster, Northern Ireland. And in 1836, 37, and 41, there were more failures. From 1800 to 1845, there were at least 150 different committees and commissions of inquiry appointed by the British Parliament that provided report after report of the dangers of the potato and other issues in Ireland. But no action was taken. By 1845, it was an accepted fact that the potato was unreliable. But it was easy to grow. I'll never forget the horror that occurred. Within 2 weeks' time, in early August, I traveled by carriage from Dublin to Cork to visit my sister. And all along the way, for miles and miles, I was treated to fields of beautiful green. Oh, the potato blooming in the luxuriousness of an abundant harvest. Oh, this warmed my heart. On my return to Dublin 2 weeks later, the stench had settled in the air from the putrefying vegetables in those same fields. Oh, the stalks were still bright green. The leaves were black. And the stench, oh, I had to cover my face with my handkerchief. Then I noticed them singing outside doorways and on their fences of their decaying gardens. Oh, the poor wretches, wringing their hands and wailing at the destruction that had left them without any food. It seemed like morning never came. It was dark, raining, like all in nature were against us. Yet, but you know, this wasn't that unusual rain for that time of year. Not really. Now we're of no use, and can you blame them? Our family always lived on that same land. Da, his da, all his uncles, his da's da, back as far as anyone could remember. He felt the land in himself, and now it worked. They drove us out! They drove us out with whips and guns as if we were animals! And weren't we? Living in a ditch! In the 1840s, Ireland was ruled by the British, who first invaded in 1169. Although the Irish fought valiantly and viciously for centuries, the English forces overpowered them and eventually claimed the island country as a territory under their authority. Oh, they settled it with nobles, soldiers, opportunists, and eventually Scottish farmers. Nevertheless, the Irish continually contested this occupation, and still do today in Northern Ireland. Now, the English lords and overlords were not necessarily interested in moving permanently onto their Irish estates, although they built castles and palaces. Instead, they passed on oversight and management to third parties, individuals directly appointed by the landlord, and another group of Englishmen who would rent large sections of these estates and then break them down into smaller tracts for those who could not own the land. The native Irish. The English owned the land, the Irish worked for them. We thought to leave our shelter, but Dad wouldn't go and Mom would leave them. Plus the baby were crying and coughing something fierce. Nearly 3 years old, weak already, but look at that big she was. I took, and we tried to have a fire, but it was too wet. Now I took two of my brothers out to find something to eat, anything. I don't know what we expected. We saw some squirrels, and I thought to follow them. It weren't easy, but we managed to find some nuts they had hidden away. Only a couple for each of us. And I refused, and I said I could do without, but Mom insisted I needed to be straight. tried to catch some squirrels, but without the fire, we couldn't cook them. And we didn't have to prepare them either. And that rascals is weak. When the rain stopped, which were about 2 days later, we think so, it was hard to tell. We decided to make our shelter better, get some peat for a fire, and then go to the lot, for the fish. When we crawled out, we found there were other families around us who'd been driven out of their homes just like we were. Well, a couple of folks had died, and we were helping to move them. That's when the constables came, drove us out. We couldn't stay there. But we had nowhere else to go. They were carrying the baby. Now we're so weak, he could hardly stand. And he wouldn't stop crying. Doc, you got to stop crying. It's making you weaker. But he couldn't. Oh, the older ones was helping the younger ones. I was carrying the few things we managed to bring with us and helping Doc. After a ways, Matt asked me to carry the baby. She couldn't carry it no more. Too weak. I put our stuff down, just left it, and took the baby. Walked a ways more. And I noticed the baby was breathing. We didn't know what to do. With our hands and sticks, we dug a little hole. Covered it with leaves. Right there beside the road. During the 1500s, the time of Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, England rejected Roman Catholicism and reformed as the Church of England, which, although not smoothly, eventually became the primary Christian denomination of all its territories. To remain Roman Catholic was henceforward considered an insult to British rule. Well, for their part, the peoples of Scotland and Wales adopted more fundamentalist Christian denominations. In Scotland, Presbyterian, and in Wales, Methodist. The Irish, however, clung to their Catholicism vehemently. Surely, God is angry with this land. The potatoes would not have rotted in the ground unless He sent the rot into them. Oh, God can never be taken unawares. Nothing can happen but as He ordains it. Oh, God is good. And therefore, He never sends a scourge upon His creatures unless they deserve it. And God is gracious and good and just, so that He punishes sinners in mercy. Oh, there is punishment for sin, blessed believers, and we are witnesses to that. We know that those who have been afflicted have turned against God. They've rejected the Bible, these papist followers of a false religion. They have turned from glorifying God to glorifying man, from the holy word of God to the word of a false God. The great sin of idolatry. Thus, God has sent this famine. It is a call for repentance. It is a demand for these idolaters to throw off their false religion, leave Rome to its own devices, and come to the true faith. Truly, truly, I tell you, that these followers of a false religion have brought this upon themselves. We wondered, slept where we could. One morning, Dad wouldn't get up. He just wouldn't move. He wasn't crying no more. His face was as gray as the sky, his eyes dark as blackened trees, his skin as cold as stone. Now, we heard about a place a ways down the road where people could get food and shelter and work, but you wouldn't move. One of the lasses that she'd stay with him, take care of him as best she could. Now, Ma'am told her that we'd be back for him. And so we left him. It's first rained and not then, but shortly after we carried on, it started up again. Oh, I can't remember the last time I were actually dry. At the height of the famine, there were 163 workhouses in Ireland where ostensibly an individual or family in distress could get food, shelter, and work. Per imposed British law, the workhouses were under the jurisdiction of local landlords, some of whom were in hard straits themselves. Others were hard-pressed to find the funds necessary for the workhouses to take care of their inmates, as the occupants were called. And others couldn't be bothered. Each workhouse was designed to accommodate 600 to 800 people, those who truly had no alternative. Adults and children. Most of them had between 1,000 and 2,000 and turned hundreds away. We made it to the workhouse, and the people were lined up to get in. Some of them could hardly stand. Some of them couldn't. The line went on, but we hoped there might be some food for them who were in line. And I'm in a bad way. Hearts were broke. She was saying something, but the voice was so soft I had to put my ear next to her lips. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the time of our death. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Her voice was cracked. She could hardly get the words out, and she were working her fingers like she were actually going to road. I tore a vine off a tree and gave it to her. Upon entering the workhouse, individuals were required to turn over everything they had, including their clothes. That was easy. Most of them had nothing. Each person was stripped and bathed. One small bath would be shared among a large group, one right after the other. Then they were dressed in a coarse, stiff workhouse uniform and given hard wooden clogs. The occupants slept in dormitories. Overflow slept in barns, sheds, and anywhere else available on the premises. Each person was required to work, beginning at age 3 to no matter how old. There were widespread shortages of bedding and clothing. Used, unwashed clothes of inmates who had died of fever or disease were given to the very next person entering the workhouse. There was a shortage of coffins, and burial grounds were often located very near the workhouse where everyone could see them. I couldn't wait in line. You all stay here and I'll take care of you. I'm going to find you something to do, some work, something, and I'll come back for you. I made my way to the place where my sister were a dairymaid. You know, she was the one that taught me to read and write. Marcus, what are you doing here? I told her we lost everything. Oh, it's so bad, you know. Every day I hear about some family just disappearing. Where's Mom and Dad? I had to tell her. I decided, I'm coming back with you. I can work. I can help you take care of them. No, you can't. You got to stay here. You got to take care of yourself. Well, there's no work out there. I've been doing what I can where I can, and I still got nothing. But you don't know. Everywhere, the people aside the road, just skin and bones. Their mouths green from eating grass. Cursed. She looked hard at me, and her face goes all blank. She tells me to wait, and a few minutes later she came back with a bag full of something. Here, Fergus, take this. It'll help you. Now, go. Go. I thought the bag she gave me had food in it. Oh, there were a chunk of bread, but the bulk of it were money. Oh, and a note. Go to America. I made me way back to the workhouse where I left my man since I had a lot of money. It were near dark when I got there. There was no line. I went right up to the door. I'm asking after me man. We got no room here. We're full up. I hear you. I'm just looking for me man. She were in line to get in a couple weeks ago. Is she here in? You look like a sturdy lad. Are you strong? You want some work? Ain't this a workhouse? Either you want work or you don't. Sure I do. They needed a few sturdy lads to dig a ditch. There were food in it, but no pay and a place to stay. We started early in the morning. Dig here. How much? How deep? Just dig. So we dug. I done that every day for a week. It were hard work. I got blisters on me hands. And in the end, it weren't a ditch. It were a giant pit. And then they told us we were done. I asked again about my ma'am. Every day I went to the house where she was supposed to be, but the doors were locked and they wouldn't let me in. One evening I stood outside and watched them coming and going, but I never seen any of them out up there. I did see them bring out, dead ones. They put them in a car and talked to them alive in the car. When I asked them about my ma'am and brothers and sister, nothing from here and I, nothing more. Cove, spelled C-O-V-H, was located about 12 miles east of Cork, in the south of Ireland, on the downward side of a hill. The town was the principal arrival and departure location for Cork Harbor. You can't tell me there ain't enough food here in Ireland. Every day, wagon after wagon of grain and produce arrives on the docks. Peas, apples and beans, oats, butter, size of pork and beef, even horses, and we load all of it onto ships for England. I've seen them Irish standing around in rags, just watching. Well, they ain't hungry. If they were, they wouldn't let this happen. I wouldn't. What a mess of people. All my handouts, so none of you want to work. And here I am, trying to make an honest living. Let America have them all. Let them bring that country down. Approximately 1/3 of all the people who left Ireland before and during and after the Great Famine did so on ships from Cove. This was about 2.5 million people, giving Cork Harbor its more colloquial name, the Harbor of Tears. Now, on the coffin ships, as they were called, the poor traveled as steerage passengers. They were assigned cabins and bunks in lower deck areas. Several people were assigned to each bunk. Families together, and individuals with other individuals, however they could fill those bunks. The passenger laws of the United States required that each adult be given a certain amount of food and water for the voyage. The food was minimal, often of poor quality, and when there were delays brazen voyage or spoilage, it was severely rationed. All cooking had to take place on the upper deck, but only in the weather. There were no such passenger laws for ships traveling to Canada, which was, and still is, part of the British Empire. The journey across the North Atlantic took up to 2 months and was sometimes very treacherous. Ooh, the storms were fierce. The boat rocks constantly, and most of us weren't that much used to the water. We self-funded hard to eat, but there weren't much food, and I was used to that. There were times when one of the sailors asked several of the lads to come up to the deck for a spell. I tell you, I would have given anything to get out of that dark, dingy pit we were in. We had been on board ship about 25 days. I thought we were supposed to have time on the upper deck, but the captain wouldn't let us. Too rough. So we were just there in the ship below. People were sick, crying, hungry, dying. On the deck, the air was cold as a frost giant's breath. Ooh, it sent a shiver right down my spine, with wisps of fog floating all around. Oh, the sailor said to us, there were 4 of we lads that went up to each side of the ship. We were told to watch for icebergs. One of the lads asked what an iceberg were. What did he know? He was from County Offaly and had never seen the ocean in his life until he had the chance to go to the upper deck shortly after we set sail. Giant block of ice! Big! Big! I don't know how we could have told if we had seen one or not. I spent most of the time shivering and stamping my feet. I did get a cup of coffee out of it. These were bitter in the milk and they were sour, but it warmed me up a bit. From 1845 to 1852, nearly 5,000 voyages brought more than 1 million Irish family refugees to about a dozen ports in North America. On average, each day, for 6 years, 300 people landed at South Street. About 20% died en route, according to the ship's logs, and many others died shortly after arrival. It turned out when we got to America, raided. All the shops were shut, and there were no one to tell us where to go or what to do. There were 4 of we lads together, and one of us spied some planks against the side of a building. So we put our bags around us, and the planks moored us to make a kind of shed for the night. It was warm or comfortable, but it had most of the rain off of us. I examined 2 shiploads of Liberians today, right there on the dock. Oh, the sailors organized them and drove them down the gangway single file. Just kept coming. I didn't think the ships were that large, but one of them had 650 people, according to the ship's manifest. Oh, several died at sea. Men that landed at sea, uncertain, afraid, touching themselves. They were dressed in rags and very dirty. We examined them outside, you see. Most of them had some condition of scurvy. I pulled 56 aside for fever. The delirious ones were the hardest to manage. They just started babbling. I don't know if it was Irish or gibberish. One fellow wandered on the floor. When a sailor grabbed him and put him back, he fell down and he was just away from him. After he breathed, just went around. After a while, some came in the car. Fever. At the time, it was a multi-illness diagnosis that included cholera, smallpox, tuberculosis, pellagra, and even the eye disease, neurophobia. The most common of these was typhus, a bacterial infection caused by human body lice that lived on clothes and spread quite easily on board ships where there was no opportunity to bathe, wash clothes, or stay away from others. Them Irish, they just keep coming, don't they? Dumb as dirt, can't speak English, lazy drunks is all they are. They keep having children, dozens of them. No self-control. Filthy. Don't want to work, and when they do, they take a job from some hard-working American. And they're thieves. They'll come into your house, grab what they want, and run. Heard about one of them? Killed a fellow just because he looked at me funny. No other reason than that. Okay. They're all just thugs, murderers, criminals, poisoning the blood of America. Yeah, we don't want their kind here. We don't want them. The morning were clear and chilly. We lads went our own ways. I went to find me some work. Oh, there were a sign in the window of a print shop. Hey fella, what can I do for you? Can I cut your tongue? You looking for a job? Oh, I saw the sign in the window. No, you're not Irish, are you? Oh, yes sir, I'm Fergus Maloney from County Clare. Yeah, can't you read? No Irish wanted. But sir, I can read and write good. I can be of help to ya. Yeah, you deaf boy, get out. The historical record of Irish immigration to the New World begins in the 1600s, when between 50 and 100,000 people left Ireland as indentured servants, rebels, prisoners, and criminals. Between then and 1845, more than 1 million people came and settled in towns and the countryside. Most of these people were Presbyterian of Scottish background. For more than 250 years, these individuals proudly bore the designation of being Irish. That is, until the influx of the destitute Catholic Irish. The Presbyterians and others brought their prejudice with them and in no short order renamed themselves the Scotch Irish to distinguish themselves from the Catholic Irish. I went to 5 places for work that day, but no one would hire me. One of them were a shop called Murphy's. Well, ain't you Irish yourself? Not like you, I ain't. I speak English. I speak English. Didn't make no difference. The others on the ship, almost none of them spoke a lick of English. Couldn't understand it neither. And that Irish, I could hardly understand a half of them. Everyone in America only speaks English. Yeah, even the French. I thought I had a chance here. It's all about chances, you know, not taking chances, but having a little bit of luck or opportunity. When night came, I went near the first place I slept. And there were people clumped together all over the docks. Some of them in the recesses of doors, and some of them just laying on the ground. Just like in Ireland. People with nowhere to go, sleeping wherever they could. Oh, pardon me, ma'am, I didn't see her. These spots are armed, me son is coming. Oh, she were an older woman speaking Irish. Take no room for the likes of you. It's okay, I'll find me another place. You got anything to eat? I ain't had it in 2 days. How long you been here? 6 nights I figure, ever since we got off the boat. She were thin as a twig. Her gray hair matted and falling off her head. were caved in. Oh, her sons arrived just then with a bit of bread. Oh, there were 4 of them, and 2 lasses, just wee things, bundled up and so quiet I didn't see them when I first talked to their man. All the lads was younger than me. One of them told me, the youngest, just a wee one, got himself some work following a cart and picking up the pieces of coal that fell off it. It was hard work, he said. Other lads and lasses scrambled for the coal. 2 of the lads was looking for work, and the other was looking for a place where they could all stay. Before I leave, I slipped 4 pennies into the old woman's pocket. I didn't spend all the money my sister gave me on passage, but I wanted work, not just for me, but to bring my sister over as soon as I could. Another qualm the Scotch-Irish had with the new Irish is that they would send money back home to support their families, and more significantly, to pay for passage of more family members, more poor, illiterate, unskilled, sometimes sickly individuals crowding into the slums of New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and other cities. This migration would continue for the next 70 years. I found me a place to sleep over 6 stairs. It was just after dawn when I heard some shouting and banging around. I saw there were some ships unloading with fish. You there! Grab me them crates! Make yourself useful. Come over here. Yeah, you! I don't see no one else around. Give me them crates! So I did. I helped the lad unload his fish. He told me his brother was sick that day and he needed the help. When we finished, he gave me his lunch and a nickel. I ate the lunch right near where the ships came in. I see 1 and then 2 more. And the people coming off, pale, nervous, like sheep broke free from the pasture. Wee ones clinging to their mans, women holding up their men. All of them just oh, come on, fella. You can't sleep here. I got a business to run. Get out of here. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I was just eating. Yeah, it's no concern of mine. Just move along. I could be of help to you if you need the help. Get out of here. I met a lad that were working at the docks. That night he took me to a place where I would sleep. We went down 3 long streets. There were a sharp turn and then down some stairs. There were a man with a candle sitting outside a door. Oh, we each gave him a penny. He opened the door. It was dark inside. I followed the lad into the room. The door closed, and I couldn't see a thing. The lad would lead me by the arm until he found a spot for us. These were, the floor were hard. I think there was some straw on it. And I could hear all this breathing all around me. At one point, I thought I felt someone's hands at my pockets, but I turned over and pulled my coat close. They weren't the best place to sleep, but they weren't a ditch either. Welcome to 5 Points, the most notorious neighborhood in 19th century America, the home to waves of Irish immigrants, as well as Italian, Chinese, German, African, and Eastern European. 5 Points was a densely populated enclave named for the intersection of 5 streets, which is today in Chinatown. The people lived in crumbling tenements where the wells were dug right next to the outhouses. Also called the Sixth Ward, 5 Points was notorious for garbage-covered streets, prostitution, gambling, violence, and abject poverty. But no decent person would go there or even walk through it. 5 apples for a penny! 5 apples for a penny! cart selling things. And I thought to myself, I can do that. Now, where'd you get them? And where'd you get the cart? Look, you either want 5 apples or you don't. Which is it? I don't need 5 apples. Then get out of here. Oh, just then someone dumped some slop out of the window into the gutter next to me. Really got on my shoe. And there were bugs everywhere. It was still early in the morning and they were open. And ladies standing in doorways calling to lads as they walked by. Oh, then I seen the cart with the coal and the children walking behind it, picking up the pieces that fell off. And I seen 2 lads fighting. And everywhere, people just lying around, babbling to themselves or snoring. 5 Points wasn't originally a slum. In fact, this part of Manhattan was actually a pond, the collect pond, that was scooped out of the land by a receding glacier. For centuries, it was the island's best source of fresh water. As the city grew, its shores became the homes of breweries, canneries, slaughterhouses. They dumped waste into the pond, which resulted in it becoming a rotting, smelly mess. In time, the city built a canal to drain the water. But when the tide came in, all the dirty water being drained out would come right back in. In the early 1800s, the pond was filled in. The canal became Canal Street, and the fancy neighborhood Paradise Square was built on what was essentially a cesspool. So, the stench gurgled up, the buildings sank, the elite moved out, and the poor moved in to 5 Points. There were a lad where I was sleeping, asked me to write the letter for him. I said, sure, and if he would pay me a penny for it. He wanted to write to his brothers back in County Galway. We went to a pub and sat in the back. Then he starts telling me about his life, his house, his little garden, the lass he were thinking of marrying. He had me write that he were boss of a construction crew. He had me 5 times a week. Oh, I couldn't believe it. This lad, he worked 7 days a week sweeping up dust and in charge. Saloons were more than a common sight in lower Manhattan. In fact, by 1840, there were more than 2,000 of them in 2 square miles. Many rented letters here and there written up to live on. Outside the pub, I joined a group of lads waiting for someone to hire us. Well, they call it day laboring. 2 of the lads only spoke Irish, and they were one-eyed Italian. While we waited for employers to come along, the rest of us taught the Irish speakers and the Italian how to speak English. Oh, some days we'd get work, hauling wood or coal, shoveling muck, digging trenches. At the end of the day, we'd get paid. Or sometimes it were money, and sometimes it were food and drink. One evening, I was sitting in the pub, reading a newspaper I found. So, you can read, can you? Oh, yes, sir, I can read and write. And can you count? Do you know your numbers? Oh, yes, sir, I can do these sums. And could you write it all down on a paper? Oh, yes, sir. I can use a felt with your talents. He and another man went out. Oh, it were very late. The other lad stood next to me. He were a mean-looking individuals, but he never said nothing that scared me. As some other lads showed up, 2 of them got these cages with these big old roosters in them, just a squawking and making a fuss. Oh, then the lads came up to me. 10 cents on Mighty Eagle, 15 cents on Fighting Irish. I took their money and wrote it down. Then all the lads form a circle. The lads with the cages open them, and the birds just fly out at each other. Everyone starts cheering and shouting, and in the end, both of the birds look pretty bad. But I got to figure out who wins what real quick, you know, because the lads need their cash to make another bet. there were 3 fights in all. And at the end, the boss man gave me $2 from New York. And he told me to meet him at the pub 2 days later. And the lads looking for work outside the pub were gone too. Still, it's not as hard as it did. As the next days were cold and rainy, I couldn't get shelter and eat. I had 50 cents away to bring my sister over. I have studied the Hibernian physiognomy, and the evidence is clear. The head, bulging forward of the lower part of face, large mouth and thick lips, nose short, upturned, slightly concave with yawning nostrils. These explain very clearly the propensity of the Irish to drink, his inability to perform menial intellectual tasks, rudimentary intellectual tasks. Manual labor? Yes. However, he must not be left to his own devices, for his nature is sloth, his habit is inebriation, his urges are animalistic, and truly, scientifically, he has no physical restraint. Hello, friend. Looking for a place to stay? For work? I got both for you if you're interested. Oh, I were reading these advertisements for working on the railroad. I need a job pretty bad. Yeah, they're all lies. Oh, the poster says room and board, $1 a week out in the open air. Yeah, I done it. Look at me hand. It don't work no more. And me leg is hard to work too. I were in a place where there were railroads being built. Poster I seen told me they were looking for 100 men. Oh, there were 100 to start, and then they brought 100 more and more, and every time the pay went down, take it or leave it, they said. And I had the accident. I couldn't work no more. They left me bleeding, me hand smashed, laying by the track. The foreman told me to leave. I couldn't even walk. How'd you get here? Yeah, they were churchmen that helped me. Now, I got a friend looking for a few strong lads to work on this farm. There. Oh. Across the river, out of New York. But there's food in it and hay. Place to sleep. You interested? Assuring I can do that. Now, I got a boat to take you across the river and a wagon waiting to take you to the farm and food along the way. Thing is, I need you to pay to get there. Only 15 cents. 15 cents? Well, think all the money you'll be making. 15 cents is a small price to pay for a future. You'll start earning right away. You got food and room, board. You'll make enough money to send some money back home. You must have someone home who's counting on you. Well, there's me sister. And she's waiting for you to send money for passage, ain't she? Myself, I run me ma'am, 3 brothers, me uncle, and me aunt. All them? 2 of me brothers is working on the farm. Best work they ever had. All right, I can get your 15 cents. Where do I go? What do I do? Well, you ain't got it on you, not sewn up in your clothes. I can get it. Look, I need 5 cents now. That's your guarantee. Then tomorrow I'll meet you over at noon in that saloon. The boat leaves the morning after that. I need an hour to get your money. Look, I need 5 cents now or it's no deal. And just like that, he walked off. I went over to that saloon the next day at noon. Actual jobs were advertised all over. Railroad jobs, farm jobs, and digging canals, but conditions on the job didn't usually match the glowing descriptions of the advertising posters. In fact, labor contractors exploited their workers ruthlessly, well aware that there were always others just as desperate, waiting. They often hired many more workers than they needed, just to keep wages down. Laborers would often leave their wives and children in the city, and when on site, they put in long hours from sunrise to sunset at hard, dangerous jobs. Sometimes they were paid in whiskey, accidents, and disease. One day I wrote in for work. Come up on the lass. She were howling. Her hand were caught in the barrel. Now hold on, lass. Let me see if I can help you. I reached the hand down. Very careful, followed her arm. I didn't want to get caught myself. And I could feel there was something heavy pressing against her hand, trapping it against the side of the barrel. Hold on, I think I got it, lass. I think I figured it out. I reached down both hands. Gentle as I could, I pulled whatever were some heavy metal thing away. Now pull your arms out, quick, quick! She did, and I let go of the metal thing. Ooh, nearly caught my own hand. Now let me see your hand. I bent the wrist and moved the fingers. Nothing seemed broken. What are you doing? Hand in the barrel? There are rats in there. Are you hungry? She didn't look too hungry. And she were whimpering now, holding her hand against her. And then I noticed she had a wrap around her head and she were holding a bag or something. She opened the bag. They were full of pieces of hair. I didn't understand. Then she pointed at the barrel. And I realized she were digging through the barrel for hair. She were collecting hair. Margaret! Margaret! Just then, another lass ran up a couple years older. Margaret! Margaret! Are you all right? Is this man hurting you? Oh, she had her hand caught in the barrel. I just helped her get it out. Margaret! Margaret, is this true? Sir, thank you. This is my sister, Margaret. I'm married. You're from County Kerry. Oh, I'm Fergus from County Clare. Oh, she'll be all right. Her hand will be sore, but nothing seemed broke. You don't mind me asking, what's the hair of her? Wheat makers. The man, Margaret, and me, we collected and sell it. It were early in the morning. There were a well behind the house where I could get in and get a drink before anyone woke to chase me away. I remember it so bad and it went so quick. The gates were broken in the back, so I stole in. After I had me drink, I went back out into the road. And I could see across the street there were a door open, a light were on, and two lads was walking up. They were dressed nice, for working lads. Well, they went into the building. I went across the street and looked in the door. And I could see there were equipment and they were building tables. The lads were working, and I wondered if there were more places like this, and how did I get in? Well, there were many industries in South Point, in 5 Points at the time. Small factories produced furniture, jewelry, silverware, umbrellas, false teeth, and even firearms. Very few of the residents of the 6th Ward worked in them. These jobs were considered too complicated for the Irish. I was sleeping in a doorway when some screaming woke me. It was night. I picked myself up and went around the corner building on fire and a woman were screaming, pointing at one of the windows. I quick run in and up the stairs into the room where I thought you were pointing. Oh, the smoke burned the eyes, but I could see there were two wee ones. I grabbed one in each arm and run back down the stairs. But the fire brigade were just appearing. After I give the wee ones to the man, I got in the bucket line, helped out the fire. It took a long time, but finally put the fire out. You! What are you doing here? Oh, I heard a woman screaming and I come to help. Yeah. We're all going to O'Brien's for a drink. You're coming with us. We were in charge of putting out fires in the area. In the pub, he gave me a bit of whiskey. Ooh, which made me head float. Good Lord, boy. When was the last time you ate? Bring my friend here something to eat. From the earliest days of the Catholic Irish arriving in the New World, there were Christian ministries that sought to convert them. There were also very religious persons whose mission it was to provide actual service. Now, we told you, Reverend, your responsibility is to help these people with prayer and lead them to Christ and salvation. The problem is not a lack of morals or being Catholic. Their problem is a lack of work, of wages, of food. That's the devil talking, and you know it. They are sinners, and it is only God that can save them through prayer and repentance. The fire warden introduced the Reverend, who asked me about my prayer life in Jesus. I told him that although I was brought up religious, I had not done too much. I could barely pray when I could. But you've been to church since you've been in New York. Look at me. How can I do that? How can I go into the house of the Lord looking like this? He looked hard at me for a very long time. But then he takes me to a place, where I can sleep on a cot. Oh, there were some other lads there. And in the morning, these ladies come in with bread and broth. And an egg! I had an egg for breakfast! After we washed, the Reverend put us in 3 groups, and I went with a group of lads that were helping to build a church. And I've done that for 2 weeks, and 3 times I helped put out fires. Curtis, one of the boys tells me that you write letters for them to send home to Ireland. Is that true? Oh, yes, sir. I have someone I want you to meet. He took me back to the dock and into a print shop. Oh, it was the same print shop I went into when I got off in the ship. So, you can read, can ya? I were afraid to speak, so you wouldn't know where I was from. Yeah, here, read this. All workers must report to the factory on time. Up to 10 minutes late will result in a fine of 1 penny. 1 penny? 3 times late within a 2-week period will result in, yeah, you can read. Now, you won't have to do much writing around here. We have the press for that. So, come back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. You think you can do that? Oh, yes, sir. And hey, I don't allow no drinking on the job. You hear me? Oh, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. And there's a cot in the back. If things work out tomorrow, you can sleep there. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Hey, fella, what's your name? Oh, Fergus. Yeah, my name is Fergus Maloney.